When Linda first came to therapy in April 2024, she said she just didn't understand her daughter anymore. Sophie was only 17, working part-time at a fast food restaurant, but somehow, she had a new phone, designer bags, and even a car. Linda suspected drugs, maybe an older boyfriend, but what she found was something far more calculated. It started with a strange charge on her credit card, then a fake ID, and a business account opened in her own name. And in the most shocking twist of all, her boss had already been paying for her daughter's exclusive content, shot inside Linda's own bedroom. Linda Martinez sat in the worn leather chair across from me, her hands trembling as she clutched a tissue box. At 44, she had the exhausted look of a single mother who had been carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders for far too long. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and the lines around her eyes spoke of countless sleepless nights. The fluorescent lighting in my office cast harsh shadows across her face, emphasizing the stress that had been building for months. "I don't know what to do anymore, Dr. Williams," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't understand my daughter. Something's changed, and I'm scared. Really scared." Before we go any deeper into this twisted story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Because trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you watching from? I leaned forward slightly, maintaining the calm, professional demeanor that had served me well over 15 years of practice. The small office felt unusually tense today, filled with an energy that suggested whatever Linda was about to reveal would be significant. "Tell me what's been happening with Sophie." Linda's face crumpled as she mentioned her 17-year-old daughter's name. "She's different. Everything about her has changed in the past 6 months. The clothes, the attitude, the money." She paused, wiping her eyes with a tissue that was already damp from previous tears. "God, the money. That's what scares me the most." "What do you mean about the money?" I asked gently, settling back in my chair to indicate I was prepared to listen for as long as she needed. "She has so much of it now," Linda explained, her voice growing stronger with frustration. "Designer clothes that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She bought herself a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max last month, just walked in the door with it like it was nothing. Didn't ask, didn't explain, just had it. And then..." Linda's voice broke completely. "Then she bought a car. A brand new Honda Civic. Paid in cash. $17,000, cash." I raised an eyebrow. "That's quite expensive for a teenager. Where does she say the money is coming from?" "That's just it, she claims she's been saving from her part-time job at McDonald's. But Dr. Williams, she only works 15 hours a week at $12 an hour." I did the math over and over, thinking maybe I was missing something. Even if she saved every single penny, which she couldn't because she still needs lunch money and gas money and basic teenage expenses, there's no way she could afford what she's been buying. Linda reached into her purse and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper covered in her neat handwriting, with numbers and calculations covering every inch. I wrote it all down. I became obsessed with figuring it out. In the past 3 months alone, she's spent over $8,000 that I can account for. New laptop, $2,200. Expensive makeup palettes from brands I'd never heard of, hundreds of dollars each. Jewelry that looks real, not costume stuff. Clothes with tags I've never seen but that I looked up online, some of those dresses cost $600 each. She unfolded the paper further, revealing more calculations. Her McDonald's job, working 15 hours a week at $12 an hour, brings in about $720 a month before taxes. After taxes, she's taking home maybe $600. How does someone making $600 a month spend $8,000 in 3 months? "Have you talked to her about this?" I asked, though I suspected from Linda's demeanor that those conversations hadn't gone well. "Of course I have." Linda's voice rose, then she caught herself and lowered it again, glancing around as if suddenly aware she was in a professional setting. "I'm sorry. Yes, I've tried. Multiple times. But every time I bring it up, she gets defensive and angry. She insists she's just been really good at saving, and that I should be proud of her work ethic instead of suspicious." "What does your intuition tell you?" Linda was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. The silence stretched between us, filled only by the distant sound of traffic from the street below and the gentle hum of the building's ventilation system. At first, I thought maybe she was dealing drugs. I know that sounds terrible, but what else could it be? She's 17, she works at McDonald's part-time, and suddenly she has more spending money than I do working full-time as a nursing assistant at the hospital. That must be a frightening thought for any parent. It was. I couldn't sleep for weeks thinking about it. I kept imagining police raids, arrests, my daughter in handcuffs. I even went through her room looking for drugs or anything suspicious. I felt horrible doing it, violating her privacy like that, but I was so scared. I went through every drawer, every pocket, looked under her mattress, checked inside books. I didn't find anything like that, though. Just more expensive stuff, makeup palettes that cost $100 each, perfumes that I recognized from department store counters, skincare products with price tags still attached. Her closet looks like a boutique now. Linda shifted in her chair, becoming more agitated as she continued. But then something else happened that made me even more concerned. I started noticing charges on our shared family credit card that I didn't recognize. Charges that didn't make sense. What kind of charges? Strange ones. Really strange. Adult content revenue for $300. Digital services platform for $550. Premium subscription management for $225. Content creator fees for $400. All with Sophie's name attached as the account holder, but using my credit card information as the payment method. Linda pulled out another paper from her purse, this one showing printed credit card statements with highlighted sections. Look at this. These charges started appearing about 4 months ago, and they've been increasing every month. Last month alone, there were over $2,000 in charges I didn't recognize, all related to what looked like online business services. My expression grew more serious as I examined the papers she handed me. Did you confront her about these charges? I tried to, but she kept deflecting. She'd say things like, "Oh, that's just for some apps I downloaded," or "It's for school stuff, Mom, don't worry about it." But I'm not stupid. I know what adult content revenue sounds like, and it doesn't sound like school apps or teenage social media. Linda's hands were shaking more now, and she gripped the arms of the chair. The worst part was how casual she was about it all. Like spending hundreds of dollars of my money without asking was just normal teenage behavior. When I'd press for details, she'd get annoyed and say I was being controlling and that she'd pay me back. How did that make you feel? Frustrated. Scared. Like I was losing my mind. Here I am, working 40-hour weeks at the hospital, picking up extra shifts when I can, budgeting every penny, and my daughter is spending money like we're millionaires. Money that she doesn't have and that she's charging to my credit card without permission. Linda stood up and began pacing around the small office, her nervous energy filling the space. 5 so last week, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't keep pretending this was normal or that there was some innocent explanation. I waited until she got home from work on Tuesday night, and I sat her down at the kitchen table with printouts of all these credit card statements. How did she react? At first, she tried to lie. Said she didn't know what I was talking about, that maybe someone had stolen our credit card information. She suggested we call the bank to report fraud. But I kept pressing, showing her charge after charge with her name on them, asking her to explain each one. And finally, Linda paused, taking a shuddering breath. Finally, she broke down and told me the truth. Which was? She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Mom, I'm making $15,000 a month. More money than you make at your job." Just like that. So matter of fact, like it was the most normal thing in the world for a 17-year-old to be earning more than a full-time healthcare worker with 20 years of experience. I leaned back, processing this information. $15,000 a month is a substantial amount. Did she explain how? That's when things got really bad, Linda continued, her voice growing shakier. Because not only was she making this money, but she'd been lying about everything else too. Everything. She admitted that she'd used my credit card to buy a fake ID online that says she's 18. She needed it, she said, to set up business accounts and payment platforms that require users to be adults. She used your credit card for fraudulent identification? Yes, and that's not even the worst part. Linda was crying freely now, the tears coming faster than she could wipe them away. She also stole my personal documents, my birth certificate, utility bills, bank statements, tax returns, to open business accounts in her name. She'd been forging my signature as a parental guardian on financial documents for months. I handed Linda a fresh tissue box. That must have been incredibly shocking to discover. But wait, it gets worse, Linda said, almost laughing through her tears in a way that suggested she was on the edge of hysteria. Because then she tells me that she's been using our house as her studio this entire time. Our home, Dr. Williams. The place where I raised her, where I thought she was safe and supervised while I was at work. What do you mean by studio? While I'm at work during the day, I work the 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift at the hospital. She's been using my bedroom, to take pictures for whatever this business is. She's been going through my closet, wearing my clothes, my jewelry, my personal items. Using my bed, my furniture, my private space as props for photographs that she sells online. Linda stood up and began pacing the small office again, her movements becoming more agitated. Can you imagine how violated I felt? My own daughter has been going through my personal belongings, my most intimate space, using everything I own as props for some kind of business, all while lying to my face every single day about where her money was coming from. Have you learned what type of business she's running? Linda stopped pacing and turned to face me, her expression a mixture of disgust, heartbreak, and complete bewilderment. She calls it a premium photo subscription service. Apparently, she has subscribers, paying customers, who send her monthly fees to receive exclusive pictures that she takes and sends to them privately. I see. At first, she tried to make it sound innocent. Said it started as modeling photos, just artistic pictures for people who appreciate photography and fashion. She showed me her laptop, and I saw she has this whole website set up with professional-looking photos and descriptions. But when I pressed her for more details about what kind of pictures she was actually sending to these people, Linda sat back down heavily. She admitted it's escalated far beyond simple modeling photos. In what way? People make what she calls custom requests and pay extra money for specific types of photos. They'll request certain outfits, certain poses, certain scenarios. She wouldn't give me full details, but I'm not naive, Dr. Williams. I know what this sounds like. How are you feeling about all of this? Betrayed. Angry. Scared. Confused. Disgusted. Linda counted off on her fingers. I raised her to be honest, to work hard for what she wants, to respect herself and others, to understand the value of money and the importance of earning it legitimately. And instead, she's been running some kind of online business, using fraud, theft, lies, and God knows what else. It sounds like you're dealing with multiple layers of deception. Exactly. It's not just the money or even what she's doing to earn it. It's the criminal activity, the fake ID, the stolen documents, the credit card fraud. It's the complete violation of my privacy and my home. It's the months and months of looking me in the eye every day and lying about everything. Linda wiped her eyes again, trying to compose herself. But Dr. Williams, there's one more thing. Something that happened just yesterday that makes this whole situation even worse. Something that makes me question whether I can even continue living my normal life. What happened yesterday? My boss called me into his office at the hospital. Mr. Rodriguez, the department supervisor. He's been my boss for 3 years, and he's always been completely professional and respectful. We have a good working relationship, he's fair, supportive, and I've never had any problems with him. Linda's voice dropped to almost a whisper. He said he needed to speak with me about a delicate personal matter. I waited for her to continue, sensing that whatever she was about to reveal would be the most difficult part of her story. He told me that he recognized my house in the background of some photographs. He said he'd been subscribed to an online service where he'd been receiving pictures from someone who he now realized was my 17-year-old daughter. The silence in the room was deafening. I could hear Linda's breathing, shallow and rapid, and the sound of my own heartbeat seemed unusually loud. My boss has been paying my daughter for pictures, Dr. Williams. My own boss, who I have to face every single day at work, who I respect professionally, who knows my work ethic and my personal situation. He has seen whatever Sophie has been sending to her subscribers. And he recognized our living room, our kitchen, my bedroom in the background of these photos. Linda buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I don't know how I'm supposed to go to work tomorrow. I don't know how I'm supposed to look him in the eye. I don't know how I'm supposed to maintain any kind of professional relationship with someone who has been paying my minor daughter for whatever she's been sending him. This is an incredibly complex and painful situation, I said carefully. There are legal concerns, workplace issues, family dynamics, and questions about Sophie's safety and decision-making all wrapped up together. I feel like I've failed as a mother, Linda sobbed. How did I not know? How was she able to hide all of this from me for months? I live in the same house, I see her every day, I thought we had a good relationship despite the normal teenage attitude. What kind of mother doesn't notice that her daughter is running a whole secret business, committing fraud, stealing documents, using their home as a studio? Linda, you work full-time in a demanding job. You're doing your best as a single parent. Teenagers can be remarkably resourceful when they want to hide something, especially with technology that many parents don't fully understand. But what do I do now? Do I report the fraud to the police? Do I make her shut down whatever she's doing online? Do I take away all the things she bought with this money? Do I look for a new job so I don't have to face my boss? Do I move out of our house because I can't stand the thought of what happened in my bedroom? I considered her questions carefully. These are all valid concerns that we'll need to work through together. But first, I think it's important to understand that you're dealing with several separate but related issues that will each need different approaches. What do you mean? There's the legal aspect, the fraud, the fake identification, the potential issues around someone her age engaging in this type of business with adult subscribers. There's the family relationship aspect, the trust that's been broken, the lies, the violation of your privacy and your home. There's the practical aspect, your work situation, the financial complications, the question of what to do with items purchased through fraudulent means. And there's the safety aspect, making sure Sophie understands the potential dangers of what she's been doing. Linda nodded slowly. It feels overwhelming when you break it down like that. It is overwhelming. But by separating these issues, we can tackle them one at a time instead of trying to solve everything at once, which would be impossible. Where do I even start? I think the first step is ensuring Sophie's safety and stopping any illegal activity. The fake ID and credit card fraud are serious legal issues that could have long-term consequences for both of you if they're not addressed immediately. You're right. I've been so focused on feeling betrayed and violated that I haven't really thought about what this could mean for her future. What if she gets arrested? What if this follows her to college applications or job interviews? Exactly. It's understandable to feel betrayed. What she did was a serious violation of trust and family boundaries. But you're also her parent, and part of your job is protecting her, even from the consequences of her own poor decisions when possible. Linda was quiet for several minutes, processing. Dr. Williams, can I ask you something that I'm almost afraid to hear the answer to? Of course. Do you think this is my fault? Did I do something wrong as a parent that made her think this was okay? Did I fail to teach her proper values? Was I too permissive, or not attentive enough, or... Linda, teenagers make poor decisions all the time, even when they have excellent parents. Sophie is 17, old enough to understand that fraud is wrong, that stealing documents is wrong, that lying to you extensively is wrong. These were her choices, made by someone who was nearly an adult and who understood the difference between right and wrong. But maybe if I'd been home more, or paid more attention to what she was doing online, or monitored her activities better, or... You work full-time to support your family. That's not neglect, that's responsibility. And from what you've told me, you did notice when things changed. You asked questions, you investigated when her explanations didn't make sense, you confronted her when you found evidence of problems. That's exactly what a good parent should do. Then why do I feel so guilty? Why do I keep thinking that somehow I should have prevented this? Because you love your daughter, and when someone we love makes destructive choices, we naturally wonder if we could have prevented it somehow. That's a normal response. But taking on responsibility for her choices won't help either of you move forward from this situation. Linda sighed deeply, seeming to relax slightly for the first time since she'd arrived. So what do I do about work? How do I face my boss knowing what he knows? How do I maintain any kind of professional relationship with someone who has been paying my teenage daughter for pictures? That's a very difficult situation, and honestly, It may be something you want to discuss with HR or consider consulting with an employment attorney about. Your boss put himself in an inappropriate position by subscribing to content created by his employee's minor daughter, regardless of whether he knew her age or family connection initially. I hadn't thought about it that way. I was so focused on my own embarrassment and discomfort. His discomfort is probably as great as yours right now. He's likely worried about the professional and legal implications of the situation as well. The fact that he brought it to your attention instead of just quietly canceling his subscription suggests he understands the seriousness of the situation. What about Sophie? How do I rebuild trust with her after something like this? How do we go back to having a normal mother-daughter relationship? That's going to take time and probably require Sophie to demonstrate real change and accountability. She'll need to understand the full scope of what she's done, not just the money-making scheme, but the fraud, the theft, the lies, and the impact on your family and your life. She keeps insisting that she was just being entrepreneurial, that I should be proud of her for being financially successful and independent. She doesn't seem to understand why I'm upset. Financial success built on fraud and deception isn't something to be proud of. She needs to understand that how you earn money matters just as much as how much you earn. There are legal ways and illegal ways to make money, and there are ethical considerations around the type of business she's chosen to pursue. Linda looked exhausted, the weight of the situation seeming to settle more heavily on her shoulders. This whole thing has made me question everything I thought I knew about her. For 17 years, I thought I was raising an honest, responsible young woman with good judgment and strong values. Now I find out she's been living a completely double life, lying to me every single day, committing fraud, and running some kind of online business that I don't even fully understand. People are complex, Linda. The Sophie who was capable of this deception is the same Sophie you raised with love and values for 17 years. She made very poor choices, but that doesn't erase all of your good parenting or mean that she's fundamentally a bad person. How can you be so sure? How do I know that anything I thought I knew about her character is actually true? Because she broke down and told you the truth when you confronted her with evidence. Because she's been supporting herself financially, even if the methods were completely inappropriate. Because she's clearly intelligent and resourceful, even if she's been using those qualities in illegal and unethical ways. I suppose that's true. She could have continued lying even when I showed her the credit card statements. Exactly. The challenge now is helping her redirect those qualities, her intelligence, resourcefulness, and apparent business acumen, in legal and healthy directions. Linda sat back in her chair, looking slightly less overwhelmed than when she'd arrived. What do you think I should do first? What's the most important immediate step? I think you should have a serious conversation with Sophie about shutting down her online business immediately. Not gradually, not after she fulfills her current commitments, immediately. Then you should both meet with a lawyer to understand the potential legal consequences of what she's done and how to minimize them going forward. What about all the money she's made? She showed me bank statements. She really has made thousands of dollars. That's something the lawyer can advise you about. Some of it may need to be returned, especially if it was earned through fraudulent identification. Some of it may need to be held in trust until she's 18. Some of it may need to go toward paying back the fraudulent charges on your credit card and covering legal fees. And what about the items she's bought with this money? The car, the clothes, the electronics? Again, legal advice would be helpful there. But practically speaking, items purchased through fraud or with money earned through potentially illegal activities don't really belong to her, even if she's the one who bought them. This is going to destroy her. She's become so accustomed to having unlimited money and buying whatever she wants whenever she wants it. Going back to a normal teenage budget is going to feel impossible to her. That's a natural consequence of her choices. Learning to live within legitimate means, to earn money through legal work, and to understand the real value of money are important life lessons, even if they're painful to learn. What about counseling for her? Do you think she needs therapy too? I think it would be very beneficial. She's clearly struggled with decision-making, impulse control, understanding appropriate boundaries, and recognizing the difference between entrepreneurship and fraud. A therapist who specializes in adolescence could help her work through whatever led to these choices. Would you be willing to see her? I think it would be better for her to see someone else, so that you can continue to have this space for yourself. You're going to need ongoing support as you navigate this situation, And it's important that you have somewhere to process your own feelings without worrying about Sophie's treatment or feeling like you can't speak freely. Linda nodded. That makes sense. I think I would feel inhibited talking about her if I knew she was also your patient. Exactly. I can provide you with some referrals to excellent therapists who work with teenagers and who have experience with issues around online activities, decision-making, and family relationships. Linda, I want you to know that this situation, as difficult and complex as it is, doesn't define you as a parent or Sophie as a person. People recover from mistakes, even serious ones. Families rebuild trust and relationships. But it takes time, effort, commitment from both parties, and usually professional help. Do you really think we can get through this? Be completely honest with me. I think you have a lot of strengths working in your favor. You love your daughter enough to seek help when you realized something was wrong. You were observant enough to notice the changes in her behavior and persistent enough to investigate when her explanations didn't make sense. You were brave enough to confront her when you found evidence of problems. And you're here now, trying to figure out how to handle this situation in the best way possible rather than just reacting emotionally. I don't feel very strong right now. I feel like I'm falling apart. That's completely understandable. You've been dealing with shock, betrayal, fear, confusion, and embarrassment all at once. It's normal to feel overwhelmed when your entire understanding of your family situation gets turned upside down. What happens if she refuses to stop her online business? What if she argues that she's almost 18 and can make her own choices about how she earns money? Then you'll need to set clear boundaries about what you will and won't accept in your home and as part of your family. You can't control her choices, but you can control whether you'll allow fraudulent activity to continue under your roof using your personal information and your home. That might mean she chooses to move out rather than comply. It might. And that would be painful for both of you. But enabling destructive and illegal behavior doesn't help anyone in the long run, including Sophie herself. Linda was quiet for a long time, staring out the window at the busy street below. You know what the hardest part is, Dr. Williams? What's that? I keep thinking about when she was little. She used to tell me everything. Every detail of her day, every friend interaction, every worry or excitement. We were so close. I was her favorite person in the world, and she was mine. We did everything together, shopping, cooking, watching movies. She would come to me with every problem, every question. I thought we had the kind of relationship where she would never hide anything important from me. You're grieving the relationship you thought you had. Yes, exactly. I feel like I've lost my daughter, even though she's still living in my house, still sitting across from me at dinner every night. The person I thought I knew, honest, responsible, trustworthy Sophie, apparently never existed. Or she disappeared months ago and I didn't even notice. That relationship you had when she was little, it was real. The love between you, the closeness, the trust, that was all genuine. That doesn't just disappear because she's made terrible choices as a teenager. How can I trust that anything she tells me is true anymore? How do I know when she's being honest and when she's manipulating me? You probably can't know, at least not right away. Trust has to be rebuilt gradually, through consistent actions over time. She'll need to prove that she's trustworthy again, and that process will take months or even years. What if she never does? What if this is who she really is now? Then you'll have to decide what kind of relationship you're willing to have with someone you can't trust. But Linda, she's 17. Her brain is still developing, especially the parts responsible for decision-making and understanding consequences. People can change, especially young people. I hope you're right. I can't imagine losing her completely. I've seen families recover from much worse situations than this. It's not easy, and it's not quick, but it's absolutely possible with commitment from both parties. Linda glanced at the clock on my wall. I should probably head home soon. She'll be getting back from work, her McDonald's job, and I guess we need to have another conversation about shutting down this online business. How are you feeling about that conversation? Terrified. She's going to be angry and defensive. She might even refuse, or threaten to move out, or accuse me of trying to control her life and ruin her financial independence. What will you do if she refuses or becomes hostile? I honestly don't know. Take away her internet access? Remove her from my credit card accounts entirely? Change the locks on the house? Call the police and report the fraud? Those are all options you might need to consider. You might also want to have that conversation with a mediator present, perhaps the lawyer you consult, or a family counselor who can help facilitate the discussion. That's a really good idea. I don't trust myself to stay calm if she starts arguing that what she did was okay or trying to justify the fraud and theft. Your feelings are completely valid, Linda. What she did was serious, and it's normal and appropriate to be angry about it. I just don't want my anger to make the situation worse or drive her away completely. Being angry doesn't make you a bad parent. Being thoughtful about how you express that anger, like you're doing right now, shows wisdom and maturity. Linda stood up and gathered her purse, moving slowly as if the weight of everything we'd discussed was physically exhausting. Thank you, Dr. Williams. I feel like I have a clearer idea of what I need to do, even if I'm still scared about actually doing it. We'll continue working through this together over the coming weeks and months. This is going to be a process, not a single conversation that fixes everything. I know. I think part of me was hoping you'd have some magic solution that would make this all go away and give me back the daughter I thought I had. I wish it were that simple. But the fact that you're approaching this thoughtfully, seeking professional help, and prioritizing both Sophie's safety and your family's well-being gives me hope for your situation. Call me if you need to schedule an additional session before our next regular appointment. Sometimes crisis situations require more frequent support, and I want you to know that option is available. I will. And Dr. Williams? Yes. Do you really think Sophie and I can get through this and have a good relationship again? Please be completely honest with me. I looked at Linda, this exhausted, frightened, but still determined mother who had been completely blindsided by her daughter's deception but was still fighting for their relationship and Sophie's well-being. I think you have a good chance, Linda. It's going to be very hard work, there will probably be setbacks and difficult moments, and it will take longer than you want it to. But I think you both have the capacity to learn from this experience and potentially build something even stronger on the other side. Linda smiled genuinely for the first time since she'd walked into my office. Thank you. I really needed to hear that today. After she left, I sat in my office for several minutes, processing the complexity of what Linda was facing. Technology had created opportunities for deception that previous generations of parents never had to consider. A 17-year-old could now run a sophisticated online business, complete with fraud and identity theft, all from her bedroom while her mother was at work, earning more money than many adults with college degrees. But underneath all the technology and the money and the legal complications, this was still fundamentally the age-old story of a teenager making poor choices and a parent trying to figure out how to respond with both love and appropriate consequences. The internet had simply provided new ways for old patterns to play out. I made extensive notes in Linda's file about the need for legal consultation, family therapy referrals, and possibly involving law enforcement depending on how Sophie responded to being asked to shut down her business. This case would require a team approach, therapist, lawyer, possibly police, definitely a specialist for Sophie who understood both adolescent development and online safety issues. As I prepared for my next client, I found myself hoping that Linda and Sophie would indeed find their way back to each other. The road ahead would be long and difficult, filled with uncomfortable conversations, legal complexities, and the slow work of rebuilding trust. But the foundation of love between them was still there, buried under layers of betrayal and broken trust but not destroyed. Sometimes that foundation is enough to build on. Sometimes it isn't. But it was always worth trying, especially when the relationship involved a parent and child who had once been as close as Linda described. The teenager who could commit fraud and run a secret business was the same child who had once told her mother everything and trusted her completely. That capacity for closeness and honesty was still there, waiting to be rediscovered and rebuilt on more mature ground. The next few months would determine whether Linda and Sophie could navigate this crisis in a way that ultimately strengthened their relationship, or whether the damage would prove too extensive to fully repair. But either way, Linda was approaching the situation with exactly the right combination of love, firm boundaries, and professional support that would give them the best possible chance of success.